Breaking news tonight in the case of 6-year-old beauty queen JonBenet Ramsey, found strangled, beaten to death. Apparently the victim of a brutal sex assault, all in the basement of her own Boulder, Colorado home. A decade later, still no justice for JonBenet. Bombshell tonight, is there a break in the case? Reports emerged. Boulder police crisscrossing the country to question JonBenet's brother, Burke Ramsey, only 9 years old at the time, and there, in the home, the night little JonBenet was murdered. Tonight, why?
There is a killer on the loose.
Our guard went down.
I don't know who it is.
We don't know where.
There's someone out there.
He was just 9 when his little sister, JonBenet Ramsey, was killed.
Do not jump to conclusions.
Now an expert on the infamous murder case says police want to talk to the brother about what he remembers.
Do not jump to judgment.
The Ramsey's attorney, Lynn Wood, says investigators want to meet with Burke, but haven't yet.
Do not speculate.
He was in the home the night JonBenet Ramsey died.
What's going on now, ma'am? We were kidnapping. Hurry, please.
Burke is now 23 years old.
Umbrella of suspicion. We've been said to be under the umbrella of suspicion.
They do remain under an umbrella of suspicion.
Incorrect, inaccurate,
Evidence is so inconclusive.
misleading,
There was DNA that did not match any of the family members.
wrong statements that were out there. Anything that has happened in the aftermath pales by comparison.
Good evening. I'm Nancy Grace. I want to thank you for being with us. Bombshell tonight. In the case of 6-year-old beauty queen JonBenet Ramsey, found strangled, beaten to death. Apparently the victim of a brutal sex assault, all in the basement of her own Boulder, Colorado home. Tonight, reports emerging. Boulder police crisscrossing the country to question JonBenet's brother Burke, only 9 years old at the time. And there, in the home, the night little JonBenet was murdered. Tonight, why?
He was never considered a serious suspect. Infamous murder case.
No rest, our daughter's gone.
His daughter's been taken.
He's gone.
He was in the house when JonBenet was killed. Investigators want to speak to the older brother, Burke. Some investigators are skeptical. Burke is now 23 years old. What, if anything, we heard during the evening?
His daughter is in the hands of a monster.
What he saw and heard that morning.
I don't know if it's a he or a she.
What he remembers.
Please, we just got out and she's right here. Oh my God, please.
He could do such a thing to a child.
Lynn Wood, the attorney for the Ramsey family, says police want to meet with Burke, but so far they haven't.
Patient, not to rush to judgment.
I love that child.
Speculation and rumor and gossip and hearsay.
Burke was just a little boy at the time.
There is strong DNA evidence in this case. It's not Ramsey DNA, it's the DNA of the killer.
We are taking your calls out to Gene Casares, legal correspondent in session. Reportedly, police crisscrossing the country to speak to Burke Ramsey, just 9 years old, as I recall, at the time JonBenet was murdered.
The reports out of Colorado are mixed. Some are saying they have gone out of the jurisdiction to talk to Burke. Others saying Burke going to talk to them. I think the most credible source at this point, Nancy, is the family's attorney, Lynn Wood, that gave your show a statement saying that several weeks ago, investigators, in fact, gave their card to Burke, inviting him to talk with them.
And I'm sure that we are not going to get any kind of confirmation or corroboration about when and where that meeting has happened. Everyone, tonight we have learned that JonBenet Ramsey's case isn't over yet. We have word that police crisscrossing the country to speak to then 9-year-old Burke. Does that make him a suspect? Absolutely not. Are they trying to jog his memory? At the time of the murder, many people bandied about the theory that Burke himself could be responsible for the murder. Well, statistically, out to you, Eleanor Odom, that doesn't even make sense.
No, it doesn't, especially for a 9-year-old in this kind of brutal way that the child was murdered. It doesn't make any sense. What makes sense is they want to talk to him now that he's older, that he's an adult, and see if he does remember anything.
And also, Ellie Joseph, our chief editorial producer, whether he remembers something consciously or subconsciously, something about a family member, a neighbor, something he doesn't want to remember.
Right, Nancy, and that's kind of the theory here, is that Burke may have information, may have seen something the day or the night before that he doesn't think meant anything at the time, doesn't think is important, and now they might be able to link that to some new information they've gotten. They're still working this case as far as we know.
The case still troubling many. Never a resolution to the short disappearance, then murder of JonBenet Ramsey. She hadn't gone far. According to the story of the parents, she was brutally murdered and sexually assaulted right there beneath them in their Boulder, Colorado home. We are taking your calls out to Kimberly in Arizona. Hi, Kimberly.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good, dear. What's your question?
Well, as far as I thought they cleared the whole family, and if that was the case, then would they have put him under possibly hypnosis to jog his memory by chance?
Good question, too. Lawrence Schiller, author of Perfect Murder, Perfect Town. What about it? What do you think, Lawrence?
Well, number one, you have to look at the state of where the case is now. You know, as well as everybody else, there's no statute of limitations on murder. This is a police department that was highly embarrassed when the murder took place. They weren't prepared for it. They didn't have the education, the knowledge on how to handle something like this. So they're not going to give up on it. Any bit of evidence, any rumor, anything, they're going to try to corroborate, not by one person, two or three. So you don't know what has triggered the police into this recent flurry of activity. You know, there's still some footprints that are unidentified. Some have been identified. There's a palm print and a fingerprint still unidentified. So there's a lot of evidence that the police are still running down. Look at the DNA. We don't even know really if the DNA is from the perpetrator or if it was on her pants prior to the mixture of the blood that was excreted from her body. Maybe modern technology now, advancing so quickly, has given the police another answer to a question that they didn't have before. Now, the problem with Burke is really very, very interesting. He was 9 years old at the time. He went through a trauma. He was not only interviewed by the police, but he was interviewed by, I think, psychologists behind, glass windows where the police and the mother watched him. He was forced back into school with bodyguards within the weeks of the murder. This is a kid who grew up out of a tragedy. And somebody like that takes the facts that he knows, subconsciously or consciously, puts them in a room, closes the door to the room, and then forgets the room even existed. So the police have to have something really strong if they need him to corroborate it or to trigger his memory.
You know, Lawrence Schiller, the caller, Kimberly in Arizona, asked a question. She based a question on a premise that the entire family had been cleared.
Well, the police have cleared, the district attorney has cleared the police. You know, law enforcement does not, pass judgment. They're an investigative body that brings evidence together and presents it to the district attorney, or in some instances, a state attorney. So the police have never cleared anybody. The district attorney has come to a conclusion based upon the evidence that has been brought to the DA that this family is not involved in the crime, not directly or indirectly. And in my opinion, I don't believe Burke was capable of being involved, at least in certain aspects of it. Look, the body was placed in the wine cellar. It wasn't dragged in. It was placed there. There was dust all around. Then it was wrapped. So, a 9-year-old kid's not going to be able to carry that body in and put it there. Now, maybe he saw something, his sister slipping in the bathroom, if he was awake, which I don't think he was. Maybe he saw her bump her head. Maybe there is some other fact. Because you have to remember, she did not die from the strangulation that many people think she did by the garrote. She died by hemorrhaging in the brain because there was an injury to her that didn't even break the skin. There was no outward bruising at all. And this was slow bleeding, and the cause of death was actually determined in the autopsy. It wasn't determined, at the crime scene.
Well, Lawrence Schiller, author of Perfect Murder, Perfect Town,